Sorry, folks. I think I'm probably live, but YouTube is giving me another error when starting out. I don't know what the deal is. Okay. Am I live? What's happening, folks? Hopefully you can see me. Please let me know in the chat. Yeah, I click go live and then it says live streaming isn't available right now. Try again or finish. And I'm like, well, I'm not done. So anyway, hope you guys can see me. I think I'm live. Looks like the viewers are dropping now. I don't know if I'm live or not. It seems like I'm live. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Always technical difficulties for some reason. I don't know. Something's up with YouTube right now. But anyway, cool. Loud and clearly. Hopefully not too loud. I can turn my mic down if I need to. I've been adjusting, fixing that. But cool. Glad to see everybody here. Thanks for tuning in. So today, a little bit different because today is live stream 60, and I decided on all the live streams ending with 0, 60, 70, 80, 90 from the future. We're going to do something a little different. No painting, no drawing. Take a little break from that. Start having some interesting discussions. What's going on, Philip? What's going on, Emma? Henrique or Enrique? I'm not sure how to say your name, dude. I'm sorry. But I appreciate you always being here. Amanda, what's happening? Manny, Maisie, what's going on? So I decided to do some interesting discussions. Today's topic is something I've always thought about the last few years a lot. And it's something I don't really have a strong opinion on, I think. Well, we'll find out, I guess. I don't know if I do or not. But what is art? And I'm not saying what is the definition of art or what kind of like what constitutes art. So like, where do we draw a line? And I thought about this the other night because I knew this was the first topic I was going to touch on. What's going on, Andre? What's up, Michelle? Artist B, Philip. Philip, that's nice. As the kids say, let's go. Yeah. I don't want to go anywhere, man. I'm staying right here. But I don't know where I'm going. So what I was thinking about this the other night as I was saying, where do we draw the line for art? Because some people say, well, official MCN. No, we're probably not going to subscribe to your channel. If you have some good content, we'll subscribe. But it's not really the way to get subscribers, to like beg for subscribers. It's just not how you do it. You create interesting content, put it out into the world, and if people like it, they'll subscribe. If they don't, then they're probably not going to subscribe. So it's just how it goes. Welcome to the market. What's going on, Beverly? Anyway, so what was I saying? I lost my train of thought here. So the other night, I was thinking about what is art? Like, where do we draw this line? Because I knew this was going to be the topic for today. And I was thinking, and I've heard people say over the years, well, everything is art, right? Like people say, well, everything's art. Like, you know, this chair, this table, like everything is art. But hey, Ann Bornstein, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. Glad to see you here. But I was thinking about that today, actually. It's kind of like saying everyone is unique, like everyone's special. Like, yeah, we all are different. Like, of course, we're not the same. But if you think like everyone is special, it kind of breaks it down. Like, well, maybe none of us are special. Like, if something is everything, then none of it is that thing, right? Like, it kind of it loses its value in a way. Hope I'm saying that. Hope that makes sense. Like you lose the value. So if everything is art, then why then you know it's an interesting to think about, and it's hard to figure out where to actually go with that and like what that means. But so I was thinking the other night. This is the thought I was having the other night. I was thinking like a shower or a bathtub or something. Like if somebody says everything is art, and of course that shower and that bathtub was designed by someone, and we know that there's many different kinds of baths and many different kinds of shower. Okay, I was thinking about this while I was in the shower, so it's one of those shower thoughts. But every bathtub was designed by someone. But does that mean it's art though, just because it was designed by someone? And I was trying to think about this, and I was like, to me, I don't think so, because it's not designed. It's designed for functionality more than to be viewed as something, or to make you think, or to have some other purpose. And maybe there is functional art for sure. I mean, there's levels good point, Andre. I mean, there's levels to everything. There's good art, there's bad art, and that's subjective, because somebody could say, well, that's good, and then somebody else could say, well, I don't really like that, I think it's bad. So it's almost language is hard to deal with too when you start thinking about this stuff. But I started thinking about functionality, like toilets and things and chairs. Like, there are some chairs that are very artistic that were designed a certain way to have some kind of aesthetic, and then there's some chairs that were just made to be functional. Like, it's just functional. So it is something art. You know, it's like, where do you draw this line at? And maybe to some degree everything is art. I mean, it's expressing a certain thing, and maybe that expression is for something to be functional. You know, I don't really know what is art. That's why this whole discussion is so interesting, because I want to see what you guys think in the comments, and like where this ends up going, because there is so much to think about here when talking about this. People say, well, art is just an expression of whatever you want to express, or it's questioning society's thoughts, and like it's challenging society's values or opinions or thoughts about things. You know, when I was in England, there was an interesting, where was I at? I was at some really old estate, very, what was it called? Chawton House? Not Chawton. Was it Chawton? I don't know. Some really big mansion, right? From the, who knows, 1400s or something. Really, really old. And it's like, sorry, folks. So this really old mansion, and you can go into each room, and they have a ribbon or a, you know, they don't let you into the room. Like, you can walk past the room and see everything in it, like this old bed, old gold walls, and all this old furniture and stuff. But you're not able to go up and touch any of the furniture and stuff. Like, they have it taped off. What's going on, Nathan? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks everybody for joining. Chatsworth, that's what it is. Thank you, Philip. I knew I always get confused between Chawton and Chatsworth is the big house. Chawton is that small little village. It's really cool. Nova Mova says, for me, art is a spiritual expression. See, I mean, that's something way different than creating a chair or creating a shower or creating something that's just purely functional, you know. Life, and then Mark says, life is art. It's a sign right behind you. Yeah. You know, that's the crazy thing, is there are this, you know, you could say, yeah, art is like, it could be, you know, the design of some sketchbook or something. You know, someone thought about the design, like, oh, do we want a spiral design? We want a glued design? But anyway, I was at Chatsworth. Let me stay on point here. And you could go into these rooms and see all this old, cool stuff, you know, from really rich people. The ceilings are painted all crazy, you know, and at the time I was there, they had this modern art set up within some of the rooms. And it was really cool. I wish I had photos of it or something. I have some video clips of it, but it would take me forever to find them right now. I think you could see some of them if you see my vlog from England and go to the Chatsworth day when I was in Chatsworth. And I think I videotaped some of it, but like on one of the dressers or something, they had these like different colored, like pastel type of rocks or balls. I don't really know what they were, but they were kind of really light, and they were these like really brilliant colors like blue, pastel, and pink and yellow, like all these weird colors. It was totally. I thought they were nice, like it had a cool aesthetic, but it didn't really fit into the room at all. It was just, you could tell that in each room they had this little setup in there, and people were like, a lot of people. I was paying attention to what people's reaction was to it, and a lot of people were like, "What? Why is this in here? Like it doesn't even fit with the room. Like it's so weird." And I told my girlfriend at the time when we were there, I was like, because at first I had that same reaction. I'm like, what the heck is this? Like, why is this here? This obviously is not from this time period. It doesn't belong. Like, it's not meant to be in here. And I realized it was some kind of art installation that, I don't know, they had some agreement. They set this up somehow. And then after a while I realized, because I saw everybody's reaction to it was similar to mine, like, what is this crazy thing in here? And I realized that's the purpose. That's the purpose of the art in here. That's the purpose of the art installation. It's supposed to like challenge what people think. Like that's really what a lot of the modern art does, or what they want it to do, is like, oh, this white canvas with a red line on it or something, like, wow, that's so revolutionary. But you know, it's like they're just like it's showing how dumb. I think some of it's almost like the biggest trolling in art. You know what I mean? It's showing how dumb people are. Like, people are going to pay a lot of money for this, and it's stupid. And I just realized, like, it's in this thing. Like, that's part of it, is like they're just challenging what people think. And it's like they want people to have this uncomfortable feeling, like, why is this in here? You know, like what? But yeah, it was funny to think that, to come to that conclusion, because I was like, oh, I see what they're tricky, man. I see what they're doing. It's not really about the art itself or what it looks like. Like, it did look cool and stuff, but the whole point is like the thought behind it, you know, or like what they're trying to achieve by. I don't really know what they were trying to achieve with it, but that's what I got from it. It's like, you know, that's the thing. It's there's a lot of art out there, I think, especially in the modern art scene within the last 70 or 80 years now. It's like, that's the whole point of it, is like they're just challenging the whole. When you look at banana tape to the wall, yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, is that art? I mean, obviously there's a lot of things in nature that are really beautiful. We have flowers, trees, plants, a lot of amazing, beautiful things that nature creates. But just because it's beautiful, does that mean it's art? You know, obviously I think beautiful things, especially if they're made with the intent to be beautiful, I mean, that's definitely art, I think. But is that only what constitutes art? Can ugly things be art? You know, that's the whole interesting thing about it. Is people say art is subjective, and obviously it has to be, or it is. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, if you look back at art history, actually, the whole progression of it, it's funny because I really like a lot of the Impressionist art that was created, like in the 1880s, 1890s, Monet, Pissarro. What are all the other guys? I mean, you guys probably know all of them. I used to know all of them. I've seen all their art in France and the museums and stuff, and a lot of the art anyway. And well, God created nature, didn't he? Nature doesn't create, God creates. Well, it's kind of the same thing. Wouldn't you say that God is everywhere? God is everything? I mean, that's a whole different topic. We don't want to get into that. But so yeah, good point, Nathan. The banana on the wall sold for $100,000 or something. I never really followed that whole story. I didn't really know much about it, but I did hear about it, like from the sidelines, you know. But yeah, that's the whole thing. I think it's the biggest trolling. I think these people are just super big trolls, man. They're just going like, how can we get these dumb rich people to spend money on the dumbest, like, how dumb can we make things and see what people are going to buy, you know? It's like, Emma says, if something attracts you, it's art. Well, that's a good point. If it's beautiful, you're attracted to it. Man, where was I going? My train of thought, I lost it. Yeah, the Impressionists. I love a lot of what the Impressionists did, a lot of them. And there's some Impressionists that I don't like their work at all, because it really started breaking down the quality of art that was being created. When you look back at art history, and I don't know a whole lot about art history, but just going to the museum and knowing the basic, like, okay, in like the when you look at like 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, they started getting really good at doing portraits, really good at creating the quality. They really were upping the quality. They were starting to get better and better. And then you have like John Singer Sargent, painters like that. Who else was really good? Ton of artists back then, really good. And then you had Monet and his whole group of Impressionists that rebelled against all that came before them. They were like, we don't want to. It's not about the quality. It's about light and color, and just using really bold color with having like this broken color method. And it's not about creating super realistic realism like that. Although Monet's, when you see his Impressionist paintings in person, dude, they look super. I mean, it's more of his earlier, not his late stuff. He was like half blind, getting to see anything. But a lot of his stuff really glows when you see it in a room. And I saw another Impressionist painting. I can't remember the name of who did it, but man, the greens and the colors in it for the sunlight. I mean, the whole painting just glowing on the wall compared to all the other paintings around it, and it looked realistic. But then there's some Impressionists later on, early 1900s stuff. They start really breaking it down. You get into like pointillism and post-impressionists. There are some post-impressionists that are really good. Edward Leon Cortez was really great. I like his style. But that's when you start getting really loose. And then after that, people rebelled even more. They rebelled against the Impressionists, rebelled against the other illustrators and stuff. So it's fun. It's interesting to see this whole breakdown of kind of the quality of art over time. And it's kind of where we gotten today with the whole art scene. Yeah, I really loved the whole Banksy self-destructing painting. I mean, that was such a crazy thing, and very symbolic. It was really cool that whole thing happened. Like soon as somebody buys it, spends all that money on it, he's just like right through the shredder. It's like pretty cool. Art doesn't have to be beautiful. A lot of art is ugly to make you stop and look. Like a car crash. Yeah, man, that's a good point. Everybody looks at, you're right. Everyone is very interested in car crashes. Like when you have to go slow by it, everyone turns their head, even though you're not, everybody's like, oh, don't turn your head, don't look. But that's a good point. It's like sometimes ugly things in life are very interesting. I never really thought about it that way. That's a really good point. Commercial art is a big scam. Yeah, of course. Art at the late 19th century finally deviated from religion. Well, the whole point, the reason why it was so religious in the past is because that's who was commissioning it. You had kings and all kinds of, I don't know if the church commissioned it or not, but you had kings who were very religious and commissioning those kinds of paintings. So I think you hit the nail on the head with a lot of it. At a certain level in the market, it's no longer art, but currency. Yeah, exactly. It's all driven by money nowadays. And that's really the interesting thing about art, is because it's funny how whenever we discuss something like this, it always ends up being some kind of either it ends up being about money or politics or something like that. It's interesting how that's kind of where what it's come to today. The Da Vinci that set the record for most expensive painting ever sold, Salvator Mundi, was really just a contest for yeah, pretty much. And I think like that's usually what it always is. It's people to flex to show how much money they have. I think they said like some Saudi billionaire bought that, and a lot of the Saudis now, or at least in the past when that one sold. They're buying all this expensive art just to like, they're trying to bring people over there. They're trying to get people to come there. They're I don't know the whole thing behind it, but it's just flexing. They're just showing off how much money they have. Something that is created with imagination and skill and that is beautiful or that expresses important ideas or feelings. Yeah, exactly. That's how it is for me. Art for me is the art that I create. I love capturing a moment in time in a landscape or a place that I've been to or a memory or something to hold on to later on and trying to recreate it realistically, but not super realistically, just enough to make it look good. Let's see, how long have we been going here? 20 minutes? All right, not bad. So I got a lot of critiques here to go through, so I'm going to get to these soon. But yeah, I just thought this whole topic would be interesting. One of your favorites is Renoir. Yeah, I really like a lot of his paintings too. I think I saw a whole show of Renoir. I think it's been so long, I can't remember. Maybe it was a lot of Impressionists actually. Maisie says, I had an argument with a friend the other day about what is good or bad art. I think that's what it says. My screen is a bit cut off here. Long story short, in my opinion, in most cases, art isn't really bad because everyone has their own art style. I mean, some is bad. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's some art, there are qualities of art that you can judge on. I mean, obviously to improve them, the color, the drawing, the values, the edges, the composition. I mean, there are these qualities that we can kind of judge objectively to some extent. At some point it breaks down, starts being subjective, like, oh, do you like that color? No, I don't. Oh, well, I love that color, so that's why I want to use it. It's like, okay. So it's all personal preference. Like you said, art style. But there are things that the majority of people agree on sometimes, like, oh, that's beautiful. And most people can agree with that, What do I think about Banksy? I don't really know a whole lot about him. So, I mean, I've seen some of his art. I mean, I think it's cool, but I don't know. Art to me is when a person creates, whether it's painting or drawing or jewelry making, or whatever medium they choose. We don't all have the same art interests. That's for sure. Definitely. And see, now I think the discussion, we're all kind of talking about art, like people creating things. And that's kind of where I started with this conversation, is like, well, is this table that I bought from IKEA, is that art? Someone designed it, someone created it, but it's just for function. It's created for function. It's not created for any other purpose really other than to be functional. I wouldn't even call it beautiful. It's not an ugly table, but it's just a particle board, fake wood, black table. So is that art? I mean, everything is art, right? I mean, I don't see this table as being art just because someone designed it. I think it's just functional. That's my opinion on it. I think if things are created to be, although you could look at cars though, and you could say, well, a lot of the new cars, or really old cars from late 60s, early 70s, a lot of the muscle cars and stuff, really beautiful, nice cars, beautiful functionality to them, a lot of power. You could say those are art in a way, but a lot of that is also, they're designed not only to be functional, but to look nice, to be attractive, so that people will buy them. Nice colors, interesting interior, really attractive features, the gauges, everything's built in this aesthetic way. So I think I don't know, I think in some aspect that's where the line is for me. Is it purely made to be functional, like this chair I'm sitting in? It's not art. Somebody designed it and thought about it, like, yeah, maybe I want the bottom to have a little dip in it so that the person sits in it nicely. There's these nice things. They decided to leave off armrests, so that was probably a decision. They put all this thought and energy into it. Doesn't mean it's art, though. I don't know. Nathan says, mass production, I wouldn't consider that art. Look at cars, though. Cars are mass produced. A lot of the big artists have, you know, their art printed in books. They make prints. You can buy a print. You know, that's the thing. It's really hard to have, if you just have this blanket criteria. It's hard to, you know, there's some things that are just purely functional. Yeah, it's a really interesting discussion. There's so many little avenues to go down, and that's why I thought it'd be a cool discussion to have today, because it's something I thought about for so many years, and I think I'm finally solidifying a little bit of my views on it. But it's something that can be changed too over time. You know, something that can change. The table is not created to be looked at. That's for sure. I think I missed a lot of comments here. Let me try to get through these. Someone says to let my hair grow out. Yeah, one day I might. It's too hot right now. I used to have long hair, for everybody who doesn't know. Like, I had it for like 2 years. I have really long hair, like a woman. Yes, the artist never gets any of the money they sell the art, then the person flips it for millions. Yeah, exactly. Artists from academics always criticize self-taught artists. Yeah, that's the thing too, is you have artists that are kind of full of themselves to some extent. You have that with any profession or any kind of, you know, it's just how it goes. It's going to be people that are full of themselves, or they think they're the best, or their method is the best, or whatever. It's just like, you just gotta ignore it. For me, if you can take what's in your mind into paper, or something that's, my screen is cut off. I cannot see that for some reason. The ability to create something different is art. Yeah, that's a good point. There's no right way to interpret art. It's what it means to you. There you go. It's kind of like saying, what's the meaning of life? You know, what's the purpose of life? You know, there really is no purpose. Not that there's no purpose, but there's no universal purpose. You decide why you're on this planet and what you want to do. Same thing with your art. Philip says, I think people will be having this conversation for the rest of time. Yeah, of course. For me, it's about function versus the intention to create either provocative or aesthetic something space. Aesthetic. Sorry, some of the words are cut off here. Aesthetic mind space, possibly. Yeah, that's a good point, though. That's a good point. And you think about the very first pieces of art that we know of on planet Earth, the cave paintings, Chauvet Cave, and what's the other cave? Lascaux. A really cool documentary I saw on Netflix years ago about, is it Lascaux or Chauvet? One of those caves. And they go in and they show you the buffaloes that were painted on the walls and the handprints. I mean, these things are, what they say, 40,000 years old. 40,000 years old. And you got all these handprints on the wall, these buffaloes and other people hunting them, and all these interesting animals and things. And it's super fascinating, man. It's amazing. I wish I could go see those caves, but they, from what I understand, they have them, closed them off years ago because they started getting mold on the walls from people being in there. So they started damaging the art and stuff. So they sealed off the caves again. They want to preserve it, which I think is really cool. They already got film, you know, they got photos and film of everything. So we have it captured, you know, in some way. But it's obvious, like, I mean, we see that as art that people created. And come on, kitty. Come on, buddy. Crawling on the desk on my table. So, but that's purely, I mean, they were purely drawing on the walls and stuff. So that is art in a way. But yeah, who knows why they drew that stuff or what they were thinking. But I doubt they thought, man, 40,000 years from now, people are going to be filming this and seeing this. And you know, who knows why they were doing that stuff? Maybe that was just a way for them to express themselves or do something in a group. You know, they had all these handprints on the wall. Maybe that was their whole tribe or whatever, kind of leaving their autograph on the wall or something. You know, it's really cool to see, man. If you guys have Netflix, or they might have it on YouTube too, just look up like Chauvet Cave or Lascaux. It's incredible, man. Really cool stuff if you're into that. Anyway, I got to get into these critiques, guys. Otherwise, I'm going to be doing this all night. I like seeing the hand of the artist. Yeah, that's a good point too. It's in the eyes of the beholder. There you go. Beauty. Art for me is to be able to draw or sketch emotions, and when I look back at them, I remember what I was feeling at that moment. Yeah, I agree. I can look at like almost all my plein air paintings. I can know exactly what the weather was like, what I was, you know, how I felt at that time. Was I cold? Was I hot? You know, because you're hyper aware, especially when you go paint outside like that and you're painting really quickly. Sometimes I get in the zone and I kind of block everything out around me, but I can remember a lot of the conditions of what was happening and where exactly I was, where exactly on planet Earth I was. Like, if you showed me a satellite map, I can point like I was standing right there. Boom. Like, I just know exactly every painting I've done, plein air, probably. Something that makes it unique or special. It's super nice to have an original piece of art that can't be copied. Yeah, true. That gives it value, I feel. There's just one. Digital art doesn't exist on the same plane. Yeah, I've always felt that about digital art too. It's like, you know, I think that's what digital art kind of loses, is that uniqueness, that oneness of only being that one thing. Yeah. The ability of giving your thoughts a physical form, that's art for me. That's cool. Ability of giving your art a physical form. Yeah, even writing. Think about that. You're right. Even if you just write something down, like a story, that's art as well. It doesn't have to be visual. I'm speaking mostly visual art, but you're right. Art can be spoken words or putting your thoughts out into reality. But if your thoughts create this chair, I don't know that this, on one level, this chair is art. It's all relative too, right? Like comparing things, you know, like if you compare this eraser, this kneaded eraser, to this chair, well, I think the chair is a little more artistic than this kneaded eraser. Like, this is fully functional. The chair at least was designed in a way to have some kind of aesthetic appearance, whether it's really aesthetic or just barely aesthetic, you know. It has color, it has a nice cover to it and stuff, you know. They thought about it. So it's all relative to an extent as well. Okay, have you watched the Loving Vincent movie? No, I have not. I've thought about it. I think there's a few Vincent movies out there, and I haven't seen any of them. To me, martial arts is just as beautiful as any other art, or dancing, expression, execution, emotion. Yeah, it's true. Really true. Exactly. You know, acting, theater, like all these kinds of things. Yeah. Expression, for sure. We know expression is art. I mean, that's been for sure. I like your fluidity, simple yet delicate, non-judgmental style. Hey, that's what I try to go for, man, you know. All right, let's get to these critiques now, man. I think we talked about this enough. Give me a second here to kind of set this up. Got to just change a few things here. I got my double monitor set up today. I took some time to set it up, so now I got to just tweak this a bit. Okay, cool. So this should work, folks. Give me 1 second. I'm going to switch to the... hopefully it doesn't lag too much. We'll try to... Hopefully it won't. So I think I have 7 or 8 critiques to do. I don't know. I didn't really count them. but we'll try to get through these. Actually, before I do the critiques, I want to mention that you can check out my art on SchaeferFineArt.com. I got some watercolors and drawings there, some art for sale there. So you can check that out. Like I said, drawings from past live streams for sale, and also some watercolor paintings. So if anybody's interested in that, or if you know your mom, your grandmother, grandfather, your son, your daughter, daughter-in-law, your aunt, your uncle, niece, nephew, anybody. If you know anybody that would be interested, send them my way. I'd appreciate it. And if you want to support the channel or what I do, you can donate to me on PayPal, Venmo, Super Chat on YouTube. I have some t-shirts stuff available. I'm going to have some more stuff available soon. And I have a Patreon also if you want to support my work monthly. This is also my website. I have a support page. Definitely check that out. I'd appreciate it. And anyway, let's get into these critiques. Oh gosh, I got to resize this window real quick, folks. Sorry. Things got thrown out of whack here. Okay. I think I'm going to try to make this. That's as big as I can get it. Okay. No worries. I think we're good there. All right. So you should be able to see my mouse and everything. And I can zoom in here. So the first critique here, we have got their name. I'm going to have all the names of people if they wanted their name in here, down in the corner. I'm going to try not to pronounce anything or anything. Thanks, Philip. Thanks for the support, man. Appreciate it. What is your advice for an artist that wants to start making a living off their art? Just try to start selling it, man. I don't know. I'm trying to make a living off my art right now too. So I'm not making a living from my art. So it's hard to know. You know what I want to add to this? Give me 1 second here, guys. I wonder if I can do this. Video capture device. 1 second, folks. 1 second. Video capture device. What is this one called? All right, we'll just try this. We'll try this. See if it works. Oh, there we go. Popped me up there. All right, I just want me down here at the bottom, so I'm not like just a voice talking into the void, so you guys can see me a little bit at least. All right, so check this out. We got the critique. We got there's the name down there. So let's get started with these. Like I said, I hope this doesn't lag too much, but it's all right. We'll deal with it. It's right at the beginning, starts freezing up. Oh, come on. Okay, here we go. So this is a painting of the artist's wife. Really nice, man. Really nice portrait. I believe this is oil paint, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he mentioned it. But let's turn that off just so it's not distracting. Really, really great piece so far. I really like the bold background color. It's kind of cool. You know, and in a way, I think it's a little too much, like a little too bright. But I do kind of love the softness of it. I like the pastel. I think it works. And I like that there's a little bit more light to one side. I think that's kind of cool. So one thing, you know, the glasses are painted really well. The eyes are done really well. The facial features, I think the proportions are working really well. It looks like a very realistic human at this stage. You know, a lot of the brushwork's really nice. This might be an acrylic painting, actually. I'm not sure, to be honest. Doesn't really matter. We'll just critique this. Okay, he says, yes, it's an oil painting. Okay, cool. Someone, Cubs Win asked, do you think drawing or painting requires an inherent talent, or can really good art be taught? If so, what does it take? Oh, it can definitely be taught, for sure. It just takes a lot of practice and understanding of nuance, you know, understanding these small little things like, you know, these small, yeah, it's hard to explain, but I think to be great at art, you have to really be sensitive to nuances. That's what I'll say. Like, and what I mean by that is like, you have to really understand and really be aware of like the shift between this color and the softness in that, and compared to the nose, and like, you have to really understand all these subtleties. And I think Henrique here, or Henrique, really understands that a lot. I think he's really, really great art. So yeah, I think a lot of this is very well done. I'm going to point out a few things that I think could help improve this. So the first thing that really caught my eye when I first saw this was the hairline. So if you look at the hairline all the way around the top of the head, so we can zoom in here a little bit. Really around the whole hair, all around the whole hair, maybe a little change here, it gets softer. But if you look at the edge around the whole top, you have this hard line going all the way down. And I think if we soften that a bit, it will be very helpful. So something you could do, I'm going to do this just really quickly and loosely, but I just want to try to communicate the point I'm trying to make. Let's see if I can do this a bit. Let's make this a bit darker. So like I said, this is going to be quick. It's not even going to look that great. And the method for you to actually paint this is going to be different. But like I said, I'm just doing this very quickly because I want to get the point across. Oh man, that's way too dark. So if we look at this now, see how I blurred that a little bit? You guys see that? I mean, I blurred it a little bit there. But when we take this off, you know, I could even blur it a bit more. But hopefully you guys get my point. I think just by softening that, I'm not saying it has to be this soft, but really paying attention to those edges up there, really being careful. Because you want the attention to be on her face. I mean, that's why you're painting this thing, right? So just being aware of those edges up there around the whole head, really softening some things, you know, even down here, her hair. I mean, you could really soften this down here. You know, this could be really soft. You know, it doesn't have to be a hard line, especially the more you get towards the corners of the painting, you know, and away from the main idea. I don't know why I have that big line there. Okay, there we go. So some softer edges around the hairline. Another thing, softening the, mix with the, good, exactly, Henrique, mix with the background. Yeah, basically a mix between the background and the hair, and just have like a line, you know, a line of the hair mixed with the background. The other thing is more soft, really just more softness around the whole portrait in certain areas. And I think you could even push the softness here on the side of the face. So once again, oh, that's really dark. Give me 1 second here, folks. So let's say we take some of that. I think you could really push the softness here. I'm not saying you have to darken it as much as I'm darkening it, but just kind of soften her face to some extent. And you probably wouldn't want it to be black like that. You want it to be like a warm brown or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. You get my point here. So really softening that side of the face, maybe not that dark, but softening that harsh line. Because once you get rid of that and you see that harsh line, you can see how it just softening that side of her face into the shadow will help to round her face back into the hair. It just gives it a little more form. See what I'm saying? Same could be done right here on her neck, like where that shadow starts. Just, you know, the background with the hair mixed with the shadow color there. just soften that. Just really push the softness. Another thing I wanted to point out was, yeah, so mixing this kind of like really softening this here a little bit, and kind of gradually hardening it as it goes into the light. You know, a gradual softness. It doesn't have to look like that, but it'll look better when you do it, I'm sure. There you go. So some kind of softness there. Also, this line of the neck, that I think you could, yeah, work in the middle tones. Yeah, good point. Yeah, exactly. More work in the middle tones between the shadows and the light. But I feel like this this harsh, and this is just me. You know, I'm pointing out, I'm kind of nitpicking this thing because it's really good, and I want you to think about some of the stuff I'm saying and maybe try to push some of it, you know. But this line of her neck, I think you could almost get rid of this thing. And the reason I say that is because it's very harsh, and I'll show you what I mean when we zoom out of here in a minute. You'll realize how harsh it actually is. You know, you can have a little bit of shadow down there if you want, just to show a little bit of definition of the neck. So see the difference there? So, and like I said, you might want a little bit more shadowing there if you want. But when I take this off now, you see what it does to the rest of the face? It really draws your attention down there. Once you see that contrast down there and that hard line, I mean, it really draws you away from the face. At least when I look at it, draws me away from the face. So we don't want that, you know. And you're also, when you're painting people, you kind of want to, and this might be a little too light. I mean, like I said, you can make this a little bit darker if you want, just to push a little bit of definition. But, you know, when I think of painting portraits, like sometimes I want to kind of flatter the people a little bit. And when you have, especially on a woman, if you have like a harsh line like that, it can kind of age them a little bit or make them just look older. Like I said, age them. Doesn't always have to be the case, but just be careful with that kind of stuff. Like, even though it's in the photo, doesn't mean it makes it, doesn't mean you want it there or something, you know? Yeah, exactly. Change the focal point. And you know, it's hard to see this stuff until like me, when I start painting over it in Photoshop, and then when I take it on and off, I'm like, oh wow, it really, you know, it really helps to kind of tweak that a little bit. It's something to play around with. You know, you can, if you paint over it and you decide you wanted it back in, you know, you just paint over it again. You know, it's not a big deal. You just change and move things. You keep pushing things. Paint over it again. It's not a big deal. But otherwise, it's pretty good. Really good. I mean, the shadows you have here, the lighting's really nice. I think it's just working with some of these edges. I mean, I even think one last thing, because I need to get to these other critiques, folks. One last thing is, I think you could even push her hair a little bit in some areas, like just make it a little bit longer. This is personal preference, you know, I'm not saying you have to do this, but see how her hair kind of just goes in this, cuts off in a straight line. I think if you can make it more interesting just by making some of it a little bit longer in areas, especially down here. You could just have this flowing off a bit more. Like I said, that's personal preference. It's just kind of create a little more variety rather than it just being abrupt and cutting off straight. If you don't want to mess with your wife's hair, I understand that. You don't want to make her too, you don't want it to not look like her, of course. But you see what I mean? Like, especially this corner down here, the bottom left corner, just having some of that hair flowing off a little bit more just kind of creates a little more continuity. I don't know. I don't know how to phrase it, you know. It just seems like her hair ends abruptly, and maybe it does in real life, but it's just an idea. So if we turn back on all these things that I did, we can see how crazy I painted everything. But yeah, you get an idea of how you can push this thing a little bit. And these are just some of my ideas that I saw looking at it. So I hope this was helpful, you know, just to kind of really push the softness, because then it'll attract your eye to the harder edges. You know, you can make the lines around her lip, some of the lines around her lip a little softer, especially when they go towards the shadow part of the side of her. You know, you can soften those up a little bit. You can soften some of the eyes a bit. Usually the eyes you want to be a little bit soft, you know, around the pupil and the iris. You know, you could soften that a little bit, play around with that. You know, it's just an idea. I've done that in the past with portraits. So you have sharp lines here. You could, I mean, it's dangerous to kind of mess with something like that. I understand. But if you just, let's increase the opacity. You could soften this just a bit. And the reason for doing that is, you know, it just gives a little more form to the eye. Because when you think about the eye, I mean, it's a globe. It's a sphere. You know, so softening some of this, some of her eyes. I wouldn't really use black in there. You know, you want like a warmer color, but you know, I put a little too much there. But yeah, you get the idea. I think I've beat this idea to death. But hopefully this is helpful for you guys. I kind of want to just go in depth when I can. But yeah, softening some of that doesn't really make a huge difference, but it's just harsh lines are really, especially on a human like that, it's kind of unnatural, you know. But yeah, the painting, really well done, man. All right, I'm going to go to the next one. I hope this was helpful for you, man. Anyway, one last time. There's his name. So thank you for submitting this. Let's go to the next one. I'm just going to go right down the line. So this is from Chris G. Little landscape painting here, really nice. I probably won't take as long on this one because it's not a portrait and not a whole lot to go into. But so obviously this is an overcast scene, a gray day. Really cool landscape. I like this. I like what I like about it. I like this diagonal that's going up to the center of the painting from this hill. I think that's really nice. Works really well. A little bit of distance back here. The differing horizontal lines, you know, creates this this distance. So I like that. The river here is nice, or ocean, or whatever that's supposed to be. I think some of this could be softened a little bit down here, this transition. I think that could be softened into the water a bit, a little bit more. You know, usually the problem with a lot of paintings, especially beginners, it happens with me too sometimes, of course, especially with my watercolors, is too many hard edges. Edges are usually the last thing beginners really focus on. But if you start softening some of these edges, it really changes the whole dynamic of everything, because you got to have, just like you have different types of browns and different types of greens in a painting, different light and darknesses, you got to have different softness and hardnesses of edges. And usually what you want, for the most part, most of the painting is, you're probably going to want it to be soft, especially toward the edges of the painting. You know, we don't want to attract our eye there, so you make it really soft. And then around the center, you know, you want your hardest lines to be your focal point, you know. So how can we improve this a bit? So so someone says push the atmospheric feel and it's all good. Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it really depends on your intention for this painting. This gives me a very serene feel, right? Because of these straight lines, those horizontal lines toward the bottom third here. It's a very quiet feeling to this painting, and it's mostly sky. The clouds in the sky, the little tiny bit of clouds that are in the sky, kind of bothers me, because if you're going to have clouds in the sky and most of the painting is the sky, I'd want there to be more interest in the sky. Like, you're telling me this painting is about the sky because 2/3 of the painting is the sky for the most part. That's usually what you do with sky paintings. You make the whole painting the sky. Let me see if I can crop this without it slowing down too much. I just want to look at just the painting for the most part for this one. Sorry folks, slowing it down here a bit, but we can push through it. So, all right, now we're looking at just the painting. So you can see the whole painting is just the sky. So I feel like I want some more clouds or something going on, or get rid of the clouds that are there. Just have it be a blank sky. That's how I feel about it. I do like the horizontal lines here happening. I wish the background actually, I wish there was more of a separation. So what I mean by that is, if we are going to have a little bit of separation that we have showing some distance, I mean, push that, man. Push it a bit more. Like, so I'm going to do this very quickly, obviously, because we don't have a lot of time here. I mean, just bring it down more. Like, really show a bit of a gap here. You know, I'm going to have to get rid of those trees. I'm sorry. But see what I mean? Like, just push that a little bit more. And like someone said, push the atmospheric effects here. Yeah, I mean, you could. It definitely, this kind of scene lends itself to being, a bit more atmospheric. So one thing you could do is just lighten up all the values in the background. I'm going to try to do this very quickly, of course. But yeah, I mean, boom, push some atmospheric effects back there. Doesn't have to be that dramatic, but it could be just a little bit. And it could be more to one side. You could just have more atmosphere towards the edge of the painting. So already with just a few simple tweaks, we got interesting things going on. Ah, come on. My thing is stuck here. Okay. Obviously add the trees back in the background. You want something to balance these trees on the left side. You definitely need some kind of balance there. So the ones that I painted out, keep those in there, but just bring it down a little bit more. Something that I would like, possibly, this is just me. Like I said, I'm critiquing this as a piece of art. Like, how would I design this to be a little bit better? I don't know what their intention was. I don't know what the photo is. I know when I'm painting a lot of the times, especially if it's plein air, I kind of like to paint what's really there because it's like a memory. So, you know, it depends on what their intention was when painting this. But, you know, for me, I think if I was just painting this in the studio and I wanted it to be a good piece of art, I'd make just a little bit of diagonal here. Just a little bit. And what that would do is just bring your eye toward the center. And I'd probably even do that in the background, to be honest. I'd make a little bit of a hill this way, bringing it down to the middle. And what you could even do is make a diagonal with this cliff. I know it's going to look awful. I'm doing this very quickly, folks, but hopefully you'll get the point of what I'm trying to do here. Like, instead of it being straight up and down where this cliff ends, like, make it a diagonal. More of a diagonal going downward. But anyway, you know, and right there, see, when we back out a little bit, you can see it's a little more interesting now. You know, we got a little more interest happening. Just by adding diagonals create movement. But like I said, might not be his intention with this painting. Maybe he wanted a quiet, serene vibe to this thing. You know, I don't know. Maybe you could knock some of this off. No, that's wrong. Okay. Maybe he didn't want these diagonals moving in. You know, maybe he wanted more of a serene, quiet vibe like this. Much more quiet, less movement. I do think the values of the painting are really good. It's obviously an overcast scene, and he didn't add a whole lot of light in the scene, so that's really good. I think the values are really good. Yeah, I think just having some atmosphere there and creating a little bit of diagonals, possibly a little bit of movement, maybe make some darker trees a little bit bigger or something, you know, I don't know. But other than that, man, I mean, it's not a bad painting. It's not really a bad painting at all. You know, I think it's just working on that sky. It's like, what is your focal point here? Like, what do you want us to look at? So if you want us to look at toward the middle of the painting where this cliff is, you know, try to create some kind of diagonal, try to show us something there to look at. So sky could have more character. Yeah, exactly. You know, if 2/3 of the painting is the sky, either make it completely quiet so that we look at the grass, or make the sky interesting, make the painting about the sky, like have some really crazy like clouds, you know what I mean? And really quiet down the rest of it, you know? But anyway, I think you guys get the idea of what I was trying to say there. So these are from Pam H. So we have 2 paintings here. These are really great, watercolor. Yeah, someone says kind of reminds me of Point Reyes. Yeah, exactly. I agree too. Those cliffs, really nice. So this watercolor is really good, man. I really like the colors here. I like that this one sail has like this pinkish red, and this other sail has like this green. It's really cool, man. I love the variety of color you have going on here, the blues, the people involved. It's definitely hard to create like figures and paintings. It's something I haven't even done myself yet. I'm really afraid of doing that. Overall, this thing is really well painted, I think. The wrinkles and stuff on this sail, I mean, obviously this is the focal point down here, and these sails and stuff, really cool, man. There's a really great, you know, image, really great image. The only thing when I look at this, there's only a few key things that stylistically, for me, I would try to push. So what I mean by that is, like, I think this painting is fine the way it is. I don't really think you probably need to change anything. But of course, I'm here to just, let's see if we can improve some things. Let's see what we can do. And so the first thing I would do is, or what kind of concerns me, I guess, the value structure. So if we look at the values of this painting, right? They're very compressed. It's an overcast looking scene, I believe. I think it's overcast. It's what it looks like to me. It looks like a cloudy gray sky for the most part. Maybe a little bit of light on the sails here or something, or just some variety of value. But overall, it looks like, you know, just looking at the grass, the things, there's not a lot of shadows and things. It looks like overcast to me. So if it's not overcast, then you really need to push some shadows further. But I think what I would do here is really push the values in this foreground. So underneath the boats here, really make this darker. I'm just going to go with straight black. You don't use black when you're painting, really. But I'm going to use it just to darken this. I have some opacity on this, so maybe that's a little too dark. Let's lighten that up a bit. But, you know, really pushing the values on these boats and the water and things. The figures, really pushing the values on the figures. Let's zoom in here a bit so you guys can see this a little bit more. So yeah, I think in the foreground, pushing the value. Like I think with watercolor, you can get a lot darker. I think people are afraid with watercolor to really use the pigment really darkly. You know, someone to look at for that, look at Alvaro Castanet, Alvaro. Just look up Alvaro Castanet. That's what it's spelled like. And really great watercolorist, very well known. He paints very sketchy, really crazy, but he uses really dark values. He's not afraid to get really dark. And I think with the figures, you could really darken these up, like the heads, where the hair is. Really push some of the values. And I think already it's bringing the focal point where it needs to be. So if we take this off, see what I'm saying? Obviously, this is a very nice style. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the painting the way it is. I do like it as it is. It's just for me personally, if this was my painting, this is kind of what I would try to do. I would be like, okay, let's try to push this. And maybe the black, I wouldn't use black like that. Maybe a really dark blue, like in the water and stuff. I'm focusing only on value. Don't pay attention to my color here, really. The other thing that I would have tried to focus on, and really why I say that is because right around here, if we look on the sail, you actually did have a very dark value. I'm going to try to point that out here. You actually had a dark value right here in the middle of the painting. This sail. Oh, now my computer's freezing up. So that sail, if you guys can see that, the little anchoring there on that sail or whatever, I'm not sure what that is. You have a really dark value right there in the middle of the painting. A lot of contrast there. I think we want that kind of contrast down here where the focal point is, where all the people, all the action's happening. The only other thing I can really recommend is in the background, these trees or these plants way in the background should be really softened. Because that's way off in the background. I would like all the edges back there should have been very soft, I think. Because that'll create some depth, create some distance, and you know, it really it's kind of distracting from the rest of the painting. So yeah, a lot of that would be softened. I even think some of these things in the foreground here, some of these plants, the tops of those could have like melted into the sky a bit, just to give some variety. But I think the softer edges, it's hard to mess with it now. Once it's done, you can just apply this to your future work, you know, just softening some of that. But I even think some of the plants there, you can add some darker value as well to the plants, and near the water's edge there, add some darker value, and really just bring the focal point to where it actually should be, rather than having the whole painting kind of be this. I do like, even when I take off my effects that I painted over, it's still, I enjoy the painting. I still enjoy it. So really great work, man. Thanks for sending these in. Yeah, it is an interesting composition too. The composition is great. You know, you have the sails leading you down to these people, off to one side and off to the bottom. You know, it's really great composition. You know, I don't think the grass is too tall. It's taller than the people and it's shorter than the sails. Like I said, some of it could have been a little softened a bit, but yeah, the shadows could definitely be pushed. Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say, is just push the shadows. And that's a good point. Is the focus on the sails or the people? Again, follow the biggest contrast. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to say. That's why I'm trying to push the contrast into the bottom section, because I think the action happening, you know, the people should be the focus. Like, that's where the action's happening, the boats, the bottom of the boats. I think the sails are kind of, even though they take up the majority of the painting, I really think it's a secondary focal point. Because usually whenever you have people in your composition, especially with something like this, where they're doing stuff and it's not like a big city scene where there's a ton of people, you know, it's a few focused people. I think that's one of the main focal areas. But yeah, really great painting. Let's go to the next one. This video is going to take forever, but hopefully it's educational for you guys. So this is also by Pam H. Just one more sent in here, and I like both of them, so just go over them real quickly. Really great landscape. I think there's might be a little too much going on here. I'm guessing this is probably from a photograph, and that's usually what happens when you paint from photographs. You end up painting exactly what's there, and sometimes it's a little too much. But I do like the variety of color you have. I like the variety of textures. I like the reflections in the water, the values done really well for the most part. I think there could have been a little more depth added to this as far as lightening up the values in the background. I think like way back here, this line of trees back here is a little too dark. I think you could have lightened that up. I think most of the darkness could have been on these foreground trees, this kind of tree toward the center, around the water here, and maybe in the front grasses. That's kind of where I'd want like most of the darks to be concentrated. I love the sky. I like the softness in the sky. I think some of that softness in the sky maybe could have had some of that in the foreground as well. I think a lot of the foreground is a little bit distracting with all the sharp blades of grass, but I really like how you did the texture. I really like how you were able to do all that. It looks like maybe you used some kind of masking fluid possibly, or you just were really skilled and left the grass, the line of the white of the paper, and then painted over it. Really cool. I mean, really great work. Yeah, the tree in the middle is very distracting. Compositionally, I think this painting really suffers compositionally. I think you have a lot of great elements here. I think there's a lot of potential to have a great landscape. I think there's just too much going on, and I'm wondering, to some extent, I'm wondering what's the focal point, right? Is it these birch trees or whatever kind of trees off to the left in the middle? Is it the dark tree in the center? Is it this river, this stream running through? Is it the grass in the foreground? Is it the pink bushes off to the side? What's the focal point? Where are we supposed to be looking? For me, I think that stream is supposed to lead us back into this painting a bit. And it's kind of lacking because the stream starts off to one side. It goes toward the center and then curves back off to the same side. So we have a very limited composition here. I think, and this is tough, it's like when you use photos, it's tough. It doesn't mean it's going to make a good painting just because it's a lovely photograph. But really, I think, for me personally, I'd want like this stream to curve back towards the center in a way. I know that might be like an unpopular, a very bold take on this painting, but that's the only thing I can see to kind of help to improve this, is to really push the composition. Like maybe we're viewing this stream from a boat, and really push the composition here. Obviously you'd have some like reflections down here or whatever, blah blah blah, but yeah, but you see what I mean with the composition. I think having that lead into the painting, it starts off from the side, so we're kind of distant from it's almost like we're looking at the painting from it's hard to explain. Yeah, I think just compositionally it's a bit weak, but all the elements are there. You have some lovely trees. I think a lot of the trees could have been softer once again. It seems you get very detailed. You have a lot of hard edges. Like I think in the background, all these trees should have been very soft way in the background, create a lot of distance. I think that would help. Like I think, let's try to do it real quick. Let's zoom this in a bit. But yeah, I think these trees, see how hard that line is back there? Like that should have been much softer all the way. Like should have done a little wet into wet, really soften all the tree line back there, soften these trees. Trees are supposed to be very soft compared to the rest of the landscape. So even this green tree here, soften some of these edges. You can have some hard edges, it's not a bad thing, but I have hard edges all the time in my paintings, but I'm really working, I really recently been working on softening things. But overall, not a bad effort. Really great paintings you sent in. I really like these paintings you sent in, for sure. I think this one just suffers compositionally. I like the color. I like the values. Maybe need a little bit of work. The edges need a little bit of work. It's just stuff to play around with for future paintings. And, changing up the design works. Yeah, really, we have to walk through the bushes here to get to the painting. It's kind of an obstruction. We're not able to be led into the painting because the stream is coming off from the side. So it's a bit, yeah, it's a bit challenging, really challenging. But yeah, it's just a bit busy, suffers compositionally, but overall really great work. Thanks for sending it in. So we have a lot of variety with the submissions sent in. So really cool. So this is a watercolor painting someone did. Definitely like anime type of style. So I think it's done really well. Like if you look at the eye, the little reflection, the way they create anime eyes, I mean, it's done really well. The only thing I can really critique on this, because this isn't really my style, it's hard to really critique a cartoony type of style because it's just not something I'm familiar a whole lot with. When am I going to stream again? I have no idea. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in a few days. So this one, so I like the coloring of the eye. I like how it contrasts with the coolness of the rest of the portrait. The line work's really great. I like that you have a variety of line work. So you have thicker lines and thinner lines. It seems you have a good understanding of that. That's really nice. I like that. So that's really cool. I like the highlights on the hair here. You know, you have good values. The only thing that kind of bothers me is the way you did the shadowing. So if we look at the shadowing down here, it looks like you used black as the shadowing, or like a cool color, like a cool blue or a gray or black. And when you do that with shadows on a human, it makes it look like a corpse. It makes them look not alive. So the only thing I would do is change the temperature. So let's see. I like some of the warmth you have around the nose on the face. So if you push that a little bit, let's try to warm it up. Let's see if we can get a warm shadow color. Oh, come on here. Come on, laptop, don't die on me. There we go. I know I'm doing a lot, but I got an old laptop, man. This is from 2015. I mean, I guess not that old, but compared to what they have now, yeah, I definitely need an upgrade soon, hopefully. But yeah, I think you need to see you need some warmer shadows. See, it really brings it to life if you have something warmer there. More of a skin tone shadow. So definitely play around with that. Temperature, color temperature. You need some warmer shadowing, warmer skin tones. You could also play around with, I know it's definitely probably not the style, but I'm going to treat this like a normal portrait. I think usually around the nose, you'd want it to be a bit more pink around the nose area. And also around the lips as well. But see, it doesn't really fit the style, of course. But yeah, overall, I mean, I think it's good. You could even add some more color to the ear as well. More pink color, you know, more life. You know, if you want to kind of really try to create your own style out of this anime type of style, just start pushing. You know, start making things your own a bit more. But, you know, everyone has their own opinion on things and style they want to do. Yeah, you're right. There should be some shadowing from the hair maybe. If you want a little more realism, you know, you can have some shadowing going across the eye and the face. That would be kind of cool. You know, let's see. We could have like, I'll try to push it. Let's do some like really dark shadowing. Come on, Mac. There we go. Okay. Okay, increase it. So you could have like some really dark shadowing coming here or whatever. You know, it depends on where your light source is coming from. But yeah, shadowing from the hair, and just be careful with the temperature. You know, don't use black. Don't use black for shadowing. That's kind of it always happens with beginners. You know, they think, oh, I'll just use a dark thing. I'll just use black to be a shadow. But you really want to use like browns and reds and you know, just experiment with that a little bit. You know, you can still make it very dark and black. You can mix black into that, you know, mixing black with red. It's not bad to use black. It's just you don't really want to use it alone. You can add blue to it. You can add red to it. You know, warm it up, cool it down. But just kind of pick like which way you want to go with it. But yeah, overall, man, it's not bad. It's not bad. I like the line work on it. Like I said, the skin tone you have is really even. I mean, you obviously know how to paint a bit. So you know what you're doing. You left the white of the paint. It looks like you left white of the paper, or maybe is that thick white paint? Yeah, you have thick white paint on there. So I mean, you know what you're doing here. I mean, you left white of the paper for the hair. So it's just yeah, be careful with that. Otherwise, it looks a bit dead. You know, a little bit dead coloring. It doesn't have to be super warm like I painted it. You know, just a little bit of warmth in there, a little bit. From Daniel G. So check it out. A little drawing here. I mean, we're critiquing everyone here, no matter what. People are at all different stages. So not bad. It definitely, I can tell what it is. It's an elephant. A lot of it, there are some good aspects to this. I like you got the proportions really well, I feel. I think the background's a little distracting. I think the trees and stuff, I mean, may not be necessary for this. You know, if you want your focus to be on the elephant's head, you know, just focus on that, you know, for the most part, but that's personal preference. Some nice shadowing here. I think the line work overall needs a little bit of work. You got really dark in some areas, like on the trunk here and on the ears, but really the eyes, I mean, the eyes are the focus of any portrait, whether it's an animal, human, or whatever, cartoon. You know, it's the eyes. Yeah, good point, Nathan. Black is a dead color. Mix complementary colors to mix your neutrals work better. Yeah, and for a portrait, use the Zorn palette, you know, yellow ochre, red, and black, ivory black. And like I said, to get a dark shadow, you know, use red and black. Boom, you get a nice warm shadow. You can mix a little bit of yellow ochre into it. But yeah, not bad. So for this, yeah, I think like the eyes need to be darker. I think you need that darkness that you drew on the trunk, like that should be in the eyes. And I think you went a little overkill on some of the wrinkles on the ears. I think we could simply get rid of some of that, or really tone a lot of those down. You don't need all these lines. I think you could lighten up some of those. You know, obviously some of them are important. You're gonna need some wrinkles to show texture and folds and stuff and things happening, but you know, just be careful with overdoing it. Same with the trunk here. I think you just went a little bit too dark on the trunk. I think we could lighten some of that up. Maybe not that much, but you know, just lighten up some of those lines because you want the focus to be around the eyes and the face, especially the outline around the ears. I think it needs a little bit of work. I think you could lighten up some of it and make it thinner in some areas, keep it darker in other areas. So, and I think you could do that around the whole thing. Kind of what I've shown in a lot of my ink live streams, you know, just varying this line work, thickening up in some places, thinning it down in other places, you know, trying to find those points of tension or focus and really just pushing, you know, adding some variety. See, now there's a little bit of variety. It creates a little more lifelike, you know, when you have it all the same. When you have the outline like that, it makes it look cartoony and makes it look flat. So as soon as you start, you know, tweaking it a little bit, adding some variety, it's going to make it appear a little more lifelike. And like I said, we could have some bit more darkness around the eyes, in the eyes. You know, maybe the shadowing this is really where you don't want it to be dark, around these shadows and the eyes. You know, I don't know, something like that. But yeah, not a bad effort. Definitely keep drawing, stick with it, and you'll improve, you know. Same thing with the tusks here. You have like an outline going around them. I think just tweaking that a bit. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. I gotta get through these guys. But yeah, thanks for sending that in. Hope that helped you. All right, so check it out. This is a painting. It's kind of a work in progress from what I understood. So it looks like we have some cats here. One of them looks like still being painted maybe. Really interesting color work here. A lot of these pinks and stuff, warmth, a lot of warmth going on. It's very interesting, very interesting. I think this cat, the painted face on the cat, is painted really well. I really like the blues with the oranges and stuff. I really like the color here, color work. I think it's really cool. It's very unique in a way. I could see this being a style for if you did like multiple paintings with this kind of coloring and stuff. I could see it being some kind of style, really pushing the temperature. The black here is it's a bit dead. It's a bit dead to me. So be careful with that. Usually the darkest values in your painting, you want to be on a little bit on the warmer side, just a bit, because black is like a cool color. It's dead. It's like a dead cool color. So usually if the darks in your painting, you want them to be just a tad bit warmer, you know, a little bit of brown into them, a little bit of red into them. It looks more natural that way. Usually when you observe things in real life, the dark things, they just look warm. You know, anytime you see a black in nature, like if you look around your room or whatever, a shadow, really dark shadow, it has a little bit of warmth to it. So be careful with that. Also this warm background here, I don't know if that's like a doorway or something, a door in the background, this pink, peachy, orangey door. That kind of really attracts my attention because it's warm. And the thing you have in the foreground with these cats, I don't know, some kind of fort or something. It's a bit hard for me to decipher what's exactly happening there, like some kind of cat house thing, but it's blue. And what usually happens is warm things. Blue and orange always works. Yeah, for sure. Blue and orange definitely work. But cool things tend to recede and warm things tend to come forward. So if you think of a landscape, like when we look at a landscape, like things that are much cooler, like blues and purples, they recede into the background. But warm stuff, it usually comes toward us. So with this, it's kind of, you have it backwards a bit. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong or anything. I'm just saying it's something to be careful of. When you have something warm like that in the background, it can tend to like attract focus, because most humans, or maybe it's just me, I don't know. Most humans are attracted to warm things compared to cooler things. Not always the case. Like I said, not always the case, general statement. But warmer colors, humans are usually attracted to that kind of stuff. When you think of red, you know, we notice red right away. It's just a natural thing. So just be careful with that. I'd like to see this painting finished. But for now, it's kind of hard for me to critique. I'm a little unsure of what's going on compositionally. The cats are in the center, so that's good in a way. You know, the focal points in the center, around the center. Maybe you could have had them off to one side or something. Maybe a bit more zoomed in on them. It's hard to see what they're sitting on or what's happening above them. This triangular hard shape, these hard lines. But what is painted? I mean, the background, I think that doorway in the background is painted really well, actually. I think the cats are painted really well. I think maybe a bit more softness on some of the cats around their eyes, the fur. Get rid of some of that black, you know. But overall, yeah, I mean, it's not a bad effort. It's not a bad start. It's just some things to watch out for, you know, like I said, just with the color, the different color. I really like the blue right here towards that center, this like ultramarine-ish cool blue. Really love that color against all this orange. So that really works. I mean, you can use a blue like that to really attract attention, make it more bold than the rest of these oranges. Then that would really attract our attention, you know. But yeah, really interesting. I'd love to see the final result and see what you do with that. But let's just move on to the next one. Let's keep going here. So this is a drawing of a water buffalo by Elf Chosen. Thanks for sending this in, Elf. Elf C. Really cool. So what I would say here is you definitely have some skill for drawing, for sure. I hope you invest, or able in the future, I hope you can invest in a set of drawing pencils, because I think it would really benefit you to really push the value in your work. I feel like underneath the belly here, I think we could have some darker value, some darker hatching under there, kind of like what you did on the face. I really love how you're following the form on the face, the suggestive kind of hatching. The eyes done really well, the ears are done really well, the snout, everything, it's done really well. You know, you didn't let, you know, you have some variety in the outline. You kind of let the value dictate where the dark should be and stuff for the outline. You know, it's done really well. The texture of the grass. Maybe the texture of the grass is a bit busy, or the shadowing down here in the grass. You know, maybe kind of just scribble over all that a bit, kind of soften it or something. But yeah, overall, this is not bad. I think you could push the values. Like I said, I think you need a set of drawing pencils. You probably need like 1 or 2 more pencils, possibly, and really, yeah, really push the values. So I'll show you what I mean here as soon as. So if the darkness that's on this nose, if you could have that like under the belly here, you know, underneath. This is probably where the really dark shadow would be, underneath this water buffalo. You know, some of these arms will probably be dark, or legs, I mean. I'm doing this very quickly, folks. But like I said, just being able to push the value, especially around the face, having the contrast be around the face. But yeah, I think I think once you start pushing the value here, getting a set of drawing pencils if you don't have them already, and if you do have them already, maybe spend a little more time here. Maybe follow the form a bit more on the belly. See, like the face and stuff in the chest, you kind of followed the form of the face, and then when you got to the stomach here, the belly, you kind of just started going straight up and down, and then you went diagonally across. And I feel like if you're going to follow the form in part of it, it's probably best for the most part to follow the form. It doesn't bother me a whole lot, but I feel like at least we should have had some lines that, I'll show you what I mean here, like follow the form of this curve, you know, like have the hatching be more like this, following the form rather than just straight lines like this, and then straight diagonal lines like this. It kind of makes it look flat. So if we were to follow if you imagine this belly curving in 3D space, I mean, it probably curves way out here like this, and then back in underneath or something like that. You know, maybe a little less curve, maybe like that. You know, there's this curve, there's this form to this stomach, so definitely pay attention to that. And the only other thing that bothers me is the darkness of that nose. So I'll show you what I'm saying. Because once I change this, you'll see it right away, and you can't unsee. When this happens, you can't unsee it. So if that nose is a bit dark, so if we lighten that up, and you want the eyes to be a bit darker than the nose, but see how we changed the focal point a bit if you lighten up the nose. But now when I take that off, your eye's going to automatically be attracted to that dark spot, because there's nothing else that dark. That's where all the contrast is, right on that nostril. So we want to get rid of that. We don't, if something's distracting like that, you don't have to draw it the way it is. Definitely bring more of the contrast towards the eyes and maybe the whole face in general, and not just, you don't have to lighten up the nose. What you could do is darken the rest of the face to match the nose. Darken the eyes that much, make the part of the mouth that dark, under the face that dark. Yeah, Elf, that's a thing a lot with beginners. Not saying that you're a beginner, but that is a thing when you start out drawing. It's very intimidating to want to push the value, for sure. It's a very scary thing, no doubt. But yeah, I mean, don't be afraid, man. Don't be afraid to push it, because at the end of the day, it's just a drawing. You can always do it again. You can always do another one. And if you risk it and push the value on this and you learn a lot from it, your next drawing is going to be even better because of what you learned. That's what it's all about, is just learning. And sometimes you got to take risks like that to really learn and push something. But yeah, like I said, overall, very well done. Really nice sketch, really nice drawing. I like the sketchiness of it. I like the different textures you have, the form that you followed in part of it. I feel like you got a little impatient with this stomach or something, which is okay. I mean, I do that as well. But just be careful with that, following the form and stuff. The rest of it, you followed the form except for the stomach. So the stomach just seems a little bit flatter than, the legs back here, the legs in the foreground and the face. But yeah, don't be afraid to push the value, for sure. All right, let's get through these, man. Whew. Thanks for sending that in, Elf. Really appreciate it. Hope that was helpful to you, man. Hope it was helpful. So this is a very interesting painting. There's actually a background. They sent me a long paragraph explaining this, and it's very inspired by COVID and the virus going on. And I said a lot of things. I'm sorry I forgot it. Let me see if I can open it up real quick. I might be able to open it up and see there's some kind of explanation behind this, just so we have some idea of what's happening here. But really, really great art, man. Thanks for sending this in. Really cool. All right, well, that's loading. Let's see if I can... Yeah, good point, Nathan, on that water buffalo, varying the line work a bit. Could make it more dynamic, like creating a little bit thicker in some areas, maybe around the face, underneath the jaw, and a little bit thicker line work, just to bring our attention towards that. Could be cool. Whew, man, my internet's going so slow because I'm streaming. Come on. You can do it, Comcast. You can do it. I'm just opening up an email. Oh, gosh. So yeah, this is a really cool painting. I love the background. I love how you have these elements in the foreground coming towards us. I love the darkness of it, the mood. I mean, you definitely captured what you set out to capture, I think. It looks like mankind being separated in these bubbles. It looks like they're wearing masks. So definitely COVID inspired, like they said. Let me see. I just want to give a little bit background because there was like a meaning to this one. So sometimes it's good to know somewhat of the intention of what was going on here. So this is named Virus. This is a piece they made early into the COVID-19 pandemic, trying to portray the way they were feeling about the quarantine, just standing still, life on pause, which everyone is still in. Also emulating the images that were posted of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. The ones of the virus spheres floating. I'm not really familiar with that. Maybe some people here are. Placing 5 spheres for the 5 continents represented on the Olympic rings. So yeah, that's one thing I forgot they said. So that's really cool. They were on just in talks to be canceled back then, and reflecting on the role of mankind on this world, as we saw some images of air pollution clearing out and some images of animals walking around in cities. Yeah, really, yeah. This, you put a lot of thought behind this, man. This is really cool. I also decided to make the characters in the painting as anime drawings, since that is the format for most of the apocalyptic stories I've seen. Wow, really cool. So this is oil on canvas, 12 by 16. Really interesting explanation. Really interesting thought put into this painting. Yeah, I love the background. It's almost like a city on fire in a way in the background, like this devastation happening. And this could also be, earlier in the year, if anybody remembers. There's been so much happening this year, but Australia was on fire at the beginning of the year. All this craziness happening. There's been some fires in California right now. So, yeah, this is really cool, really interesting. I love how you push the value right in the center. You have the brightest right in the middle. That's kind of cool, really attracting our eyes toward the center and then down towards these spheres. I like that you have 5 of them representing the Olympics. That's really cool. I almost wish, to be honest, this is personal preference, of course, but I wish there was a bit more smaller and smaller spheres just floating way off into the distance, leading us back into the painting a bit. I know that would kind of kill your idea of the 5 Olympic spheres, but maybe the 5 in the foreground, you could have like the bubble that they're in having just a small glaze or tint of color, or maybe the person in each sphere wearing a different color representing the 5 rings. There's different things that could have been done here. I'm not saying that it needs to be done. These are just ideas that I'm throwing out. I think the people are really well done in that. I mean, a lot of detail and effort put into this. Really cool. I think some of the bubbles here, could have been softened a bit. Once again, it just comes back to those edges. I mean, that's something I'm always talking about. So as soon as my computer stops freezing up here, I can show you guys what I'm talking about. So I think towards the bottom of these bubbles, I think, where it gets a bit darker, could have just softened that a bit more, really pushed it, pushing the softness of these bubbles. Just creating a little more dynamic focal point around the highlights of the bubbles. You kind of did it back here with the ones in the background. They kind of blend in with the background a bit in some areas. But yeah, overall, really, really great work, man. It's really cool. I like that there's so much meaning and thought put into this. Yeah, very imaginative. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the sky is painted really well. I mean, the whole mood of it, the whole vibe, really expresses how they were feeling and what's happening in the world, in a way, one way to view this whole thing. So really cool. Like I said, if there was a little bit more bubbles like floating in the distance, kind of leading us back into this, kind of like these bubbles floated out of this city, or something, but just a little bit more to connect the foreground with the background in a way. That's all I'm trying to say. So like, let me see if I can do this. If there was like, oops, it's dark. If we had like some light, really just very small spheres floating, just showing a bit more depth, and they don't have to be that light. Obviously they would be a bit darker and softer, but something to just lead us back into that distance, showing that there's like a whole bunch of these bubbles. And but yeah, that goes against your concept of the five things for the Olympics. So anyway, let's get through these. All right, so not a whole lot to say about this one. Obviously, I think this person was very young, and if not, no worries. But really cool. This is a digital painting, if you guys can tell. So a tree with some background here, a little bit of grass. You got the colors spot on for a tree and stuff. It's very, it almost looks like it's straight out of Mario Brothers or something. It's really cool. The only thing I can kind of say to improve this a bit is to, push some of the coloring here a bit. Push, have some have some have some shadows under here. Usually right underneath the tree is where it's going to be the darkest. And then, you know, some shadows in the grass down here. And also you're going to have shadows on the tree, right where the leaves are. So right under here, there can be some shadowing. Also, I think the structure of the tree could be a little bit better. This isn't a bad first effort. You know, it's just creating a little bit of lighting, which is probably really simple to do in your digital painting. And also, you know, let's you know, it depends on what kind of tree you're trying to draw, but you know, like make some more branches coming out, and have some other have some more greenery and stuff. You know, really build this up to be, you know, just play around with different kinds of tree shapes. But it's an interesting tree that you made. You know, it reminds me of like a tree in Africa or something. There's kind of trees that look like that. But yeah, not bad overall. I really like the texture of the sky, how it contrasts with the hardness of the tree and stuff. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's really cool. And you have nice texture of the grass. Like, you're good at creating textures. You got the colors right. It's just pushing that a little bit, creating some value, some darkness, maybe playing around with shapes a little bit. You know, something I did quick there. But overall, not a bad effort. So let's keep going. Last one here, guys. Finally made it to the last one, and then I got to eat some dinner after this. So here's a nice little landscape. Pretty well done. Pretty well done, I will say. Not bad. We have something leading us into the background here. We have some diagonals happening. Nice color variety, colors happening. I like with this painting that you didn't make you made the greens more yellow when they get in the light. So that's really good. It's a beginner mistake to like lighten them up with white and they get really like chalky looking. So I'm glad that you didn't do that. This is done really well for the most part. I feel like we could have had for the sky. This is personal preference, of course. I feel like for the sky, we could have gone with a little bit more teal in the background. What I mean by that is just a little bit more yellow in the color. And you might have to look kind of like the blue you used in the water. I feel like you could have done that in the sky, but more towards the horizon. So just kind of blending that, changing the color of the sky a bit as it gets more toward the horizon, and then blending it up to that ultramarine kind of blue, classic blue sky color. Like I said, that's just personal preference. I kind of like to have a variety of color within the sky like that. Just makes it seem a little bit more natural sometimes. What else can I say here? I think the shadow on this tree is just a bit too dark. I think we could lighten that up. So yeah, I mean, you made it almost black, so I think we'd want to make that like, you know, a dark brown, because you want to have some kind of reflected light a bit. It's okay to have like a very, very dark that you can't see into, like that, but to have a little bit of reflected light here would be nice. Maybe make it warm or cool, depends on, you know, maybe it'd be cool. There'd be a lot of blue sky reflecting into it. You know, like I said, you know, there's different ways to go about it, but just, you know, giving some temperature to that shadow a bit more, just so we can see into it a little bit. Overall, not a bad effort though. A lot of perspective going on here. So you have trees getting larger as they get closer to us, a lot of depth. Yeah, I mean, it's just tweaking those small things. All right, so he sent in a few other paintings we'll look at real quickly here. Let's get rid of that blue. So we have a portrait here. This is done really nice, really well. You know, be careful with the sharp edges there, as I said at the very beginning of the video. I don't really mind the sharp edge back there because you did soften it in other areas. So that's cool, but just be careful there. It's a little sharp on his hair back there. Hair is very soft, so we'd want to soften that a little bit toward the background, especially with the contrast going there. If you made, for instance, you kind of make his hair glow a bit. If you just soften that white into the background a little bit. Because it looks very bright, so if you get kind of a lighting effect, kind of soften that, I think that would work a little bit better. Kind of attracts our eyes a little too much. Yeah, the clouds could have been darker in that. Yeah, the clouds were a bit light. It could have had some shadowing on the clouds, a little bit darker in that last painting. Overall, yeah, this is a really good portrait. The only thing that bothers me, I think, is just some of the sharp lines. Like down here, you could soften some of this area a bit. You know, you can keep some of them hard. Obviously, you don't want it always to be super soft, but I think just having a variety. You need a little bit of soft transitioning to hard. See, just makes it a little more dynamic. Because when you have a hard, very, very hard line, I mean, that attracts your eye. So you want to soften it in places. The only other thing that bothers me is his little pocket here, how he has like a little handkerchief in the pocket that's white. It looks like a weird pinky finger coming off of his hand. It looks like you connected it to the hand. I would either just get rid of that whole thing or darken it a bit. Maybe not that much, but I would just get rid of that thing because it makes it look like he has a weird pinky finger sticking out. And once I saw that, like I can't get rid of it. Like I can't not see it, you know. So I would I would get rid of that. Pocket thing, or move it a little bit, or just make it a bit darker, or disconnect it from his hand some way. Maybe, yeah, it's tough, you know. I don't know. It just looks a bit weird the way it is. Okay, last painting here, folks. Let's, this looks like a watercolor. I really like the line work on this. I like the dynamic line work. I like the texture you created. I like the values. I like the funny tongue sticking out, licking her nose. Like it's funny, man. This is great. I think maybe if possible, if you could get like some thicker paint, just putting a little more light into the eyes, like a really nice highlight right on the eyes. Maybe on just one of them, not both. Usually you want one highlight to be brighter than the other in the eyes, but I think if you just push that a little bit, you know, just because that's where we want our focus to be, in the eyes. Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of push those highlights a bit, and maybe distinguish the outline of the eyes a little bit from the rest of the face, because it gets so dark in there, it's hard to see. At least with your photograph, it's hard to see where the why is it not painting? Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Good thing this is the last one, but I can't get it to show up for some reason. What happened? Oh well. Anyway, folks, I think you get the idea. But overall, man, I think this is great. I love that you did a little line work on it and stuff. Yeah, I like the expression, the expressionistic look to this, and I like the values you have. You really push the values, and the tongue really sticks out. Really cool. So yeah, that's all the critiques, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed that. That took a long time, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this different kind of live stream. I'm going to be doing these kinds of live streams, the ones that end in 0. So Today is 60. The next one like this will be 70. We'll have like a discussion and maybe some critiques. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, man. The next live stream is going to be a watercolor, I believe. So should be pretty cool. And yeah, like I said, I have some artwork available, shaverfineart.com. You can check it out. I got some drawings on there, got some watercolors on there. And I also have a page so you can support my channel. If you like what I do on here, if you feel like you want to donate to me or support me in some way, I definitely appreciate it. If not, you can just keep watching these videos. I appreciate it. I hope this was helpful for you guys. I hope it, you know, taught you one thing at least. I hope one thing stood out, you know. Softer edges, be careful of the composition. Remember the focal point. Why are you painting this thing to begin with? Why are you drawing this to begin with? What is it that attracted you to that? When you know that answer, that's your focal point. You know, watch out for the color. You know, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I like that we had a whole variety of drawings and paintings and digital paintings, and there's just a whole variety of subjects and stuff. Really cool, man. Really challenging me to really look at these and critique them. And it's helpful for me too, because I can apply all this stuff to my own work. Hopefully you guys are able to easily see what's wrong with other people's paintings, and now you can kind of look at your paintings a little bit more with open eyes in some way. But anyway, I will see you guys on the next one, and I'll see you on the next video. Hopefully I can get out tomorrow or this weekend, hopefully, and do some plein air. Hopefully I have a new plein air video. That's what I'm hoping. Gonna try to do some hiking. Gonna try. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I'm out of breath and I need something to drink. I'm gonna die. All right, take care of yourself. Peace, folks.